YouTube, what is going on? It's Narrow Talk 23. I'm back with another video. Before we get into the video, YouTube, I need you to hit the like, comment, and subscribe button. Turn on that post notification bell while you at it. Today we got the family of psychopaths that murdered their rival family. Let's get straight into it.
And I am guilty, yo. And I am guilty, yo. I agree to what the state's provided, and I'm deeply and very sorry.
This man is responsible for one of the most horrific crimes ever witnessed in the state of Ohio. He, along with 3 members of his family, snuck into the homes of his ex-girlfriend's family members and wiped out 8 people in cold blood. But you would never imagine the reason he gave for committing such a heinous crime. This is the case of the family of psychopaths that murdered their rival family.
They said we're gonna do this shit as a game.
On Friday, the morning of April 22nd, 2016, a frantic woman called the Pike County Sheriff's Office to report a gruesome discovery.
There's blood all over the house. Okay. My brother walked in the bedroom and looked like I beat the hell out of him.
The woman identified herself as Bobby and told the dispatcher that she had gone to feed the animals at her brother-in-law's 40-year-old Christopher Roden's house in Union Mill Road when she noticed that the doors were locked. She managed to let herself inside, but the eerie silence made the hair on the back of her neck stand. And then she saw it, a splatter of gore covering the walls and floor of the living room. And right there in the middle, Chris Roden's badly mutilated body lay in a pool of blood. Next to him was his cousin, Gary Roden, also covered in gore.
Imagine, bro. You walk in. You coming in just to feed animals. You see everybody dead.
Left unopened.
Dang.
At the time, Bobby thought that the 2 men had been beaten to death, but she had no idea of the horror that was about to unfold. When law enforcement officers arrived, they thought they were just going to find a single crime scene with 2 dead bodies. But what they found was so horrifying, it would haunt them for the rest of their lives.
A rural town in terror after 7 adults and 1 teenager all shot execution style. The first 3 homes where the bodies were found are within a couple of miles of one another on a sparsely populated stretch of road, while the 8th body, a man, was found in a house within 30 miles.
Right now we have no one in custody. There is a strong possibility that any individuals involved with this are armed and extremely dangerous.
Some of the victims were in bed, including 1 woman killed with her unharmed 4-day-old child with her in bed. No motive has been determined, and authorities didn't release any information on whether there were multiple weapons used or whether anything was missing from the homes.
We have one person, and I wouldn't call him an active shooter, but you have 1 person who is armed and dangerous, and there may be more than 1. There may be 2, there may be 3. We just don't know at this point.
Almost an entire family had been wiped out in one single night. Christopher Roden Sr., who is the patriarch of the family, had 9 bullet wounds to the head, torso, and arm, while his cousin Gary had 2 gunshot wounds to the head, which had been fired at close range. In a nearby trailer, Chris's eldest son, Clarence Frankie Roden, and his fiancée, Hannah Gilly, had suffered the same fate. Law enforcement officers found their bullet-ridden bodies in bed, with their 4-month-old baby sleeping safely between them. Their 3-year-old son was also found, lying on the floor, unharmed. But the horror didn't stop there. Just a short distance away, Chris Roden's ex-wife, Dana, and her 2 children, 16-year-old Chris Jr. and 19-year-old Hannah, were found dead with multiple bullet wounds to the head. Hannah, who already had a 2-year-old daughter, had just given birth a few days before to her 2nd child.
The baby was laying next to Hannah, right up against her stomach area and her breast. It was very, very tiny.
Yeah, what was the baby's condition?
From what I remember, I just remember the diaper having blood on it, but alive.
Fortunately, Hannah's other child, Sophia, was staying with her father at the time, so she escaped the horror. The metallic smell of the gore in these houses was so overwhelming that someone described it as the kind of smell that you get when you've held pennies in your hand for too long. But if you thought this was the end, you're sadly mistaken. As the authorities were trying to process the crime scene and understand what was going on, they received another call that another body had been discovered just 15 minutes away. Horrifyingly, it was another member of the Roden family, a brother of Chris Sr. by the name of Kenneth Roden. He had also suffered a bullet wound to the head.
We walked into supposedly the living room, and I noticed to the right, I didn't see him in there nowhere, so I seen a stairway to the right, and I walked up the stairway, and that's where I found him up there in his bed.
What was going on? And who was behind all these killings? Was this some kind of retaliation for something the family had done? The killings shook the entire country and left the remaining members of the Roden family completely devastated and scared. They didn't know what to think or who to trust.
If there's someone out there that knows anything about what happened, would they please come forward and tell what happened? There has to be someone.
The killers haven't been caught, and everywhere you go, you're always looking over your shoulder. You live in fear.
Weeks and months went without investigators finding any major leads to the case, and people started speculating that maybe the Roden family had been involved in some illegal activity that led to their deaths. However, about 2.5 years into the investigation, detectives made a major breakthrough in the case that left everyone completely dumbfounded.
Investigators raided 3 properties in Adams and Pike counties the middle of May. We had previously reported those properties are connected to the Wagner family. Now investigators say they believe the family recently moved to Alaska. That's George Wagner III, who goes by Bill, his wife Angela, and their sons George IV and Edward Jake Wagner. Jake Wagner is the ex-boyfriend of Hannah Roden, who was shot execution style along with 7 other members of her family inside their homes on Union Hill Road in April 2016. Jake and Hannah also share a daughter who was not with Hannah the night of the murders. Jake has custody of that little girl now.
So, who are these people and how are they connected to the Roden family murders? The patriarch of the Wagner family, George Billy Wagner, had been a longtime friend, neighbor, and business partner of Chris Roden. So when his youngest son, Jake Wagner, started dating Chris's daughter, Hannah, who was by then only 13 years old while he was 17, they were all okay with it. And they even lived with Hannah for some time when Sophie was born. When the Rodens were murdered, the Wagner family took little Sophie and moved with her to Alaska, seemingly to protect her from the tragedy. They lived there for about a year, and then returned to Pike County in 2018, when the story about the Roden massacre had started to become a distant memory. But as things were starting to go back to normal, this happened. All 4 members of the Wagner family were arrested and charged in connection with the Rodens family murders.
This investigation began the day of the murders, and with investigators discovering the last piece of significant physical evidence on October 30th of this year. The examination of that evidence was completed a few days later on November 7th. This particular evidence, along with all the other pieces of this giant puzzle, all the other key evidence in this investigation, have led us to today's charges and arrests. In addition to aggravated murder, these 4 family members are also charged with a number of other offenses.
For the next 3 years, the Wagners continued to deny that they had anything to do with the heinous murders, saying that there was no way they could have pulled off such a sophisticated crime.
Last time I talked to him, and he seemed all right, was the night before all happened. And I said, hey man, I'll talk to you tomorrow. And then next morning
This is Bermuda,
Might as well stop all
a
that
place
capping.
where you can get lost from
You
the
know what's going
ordinary
on.
and still show up in style.
Today, a member of the Wagner family pleads guilty, not only turning against his own family, but promising to testify against them.
Okay. I am guilty, Your Honor.
One by one.
Okay. I am guilty, Your Honor.
Jake Wagner
Always
pleaded
that
guilty
one.
to every single one of the 23 charges. A huge turning point 5 years after 8 members of the Rodin family were killed execution style, and authorities were left with almost no evidence. Then Jake started talking.
What he told us led us to discover some evidence that had yet to be recovered, specifically the weapons that were used in these offenses.
Jake went on to reveal chilling and disturbing details of what went down that night. Apparently, it all started when Hannah Rodin broke up with him and started dating someone else.
Eventually, she began seeing someone else and became pregnant with that person's child. Jake grew to be upset with Hannah over the fact that Hannah was exposing Sophia to people that he believed were not, that she should not be around.
Jake claimed that he was concerned about his daughter's safety, so he tried to get Hannah to sign over custody of Sophia to him. But Hannah was not ready for that, and she sent a message to a friend saying something like, "I'll never sign those papers. They'll have to kill me first." She had no idea that she had just predicted her own death.
Damn.
According to Jake, this message somehow got into the hands of his mother, Angela, and she showed it to him. Jake told investigators that at the time he felt he had no choice than to kill Hannah. So he, along with his dad, mom, and brother, came up with the most twisted and messed up plan to ensure that they got the little girl. Jake's father, Billy, was the one who came up with the idea of killing Hannah, and at first, Jake said he refused, but then changed his mind and suggested they kill Hannah and her boyfriend and make it look like a murder-suicide. How sick is that? But it gets worse.
Real.
Billy didn't like Jake's plan because he thought Hannah's family would know it was them and retaliate. So instead, this family of sickos decided that the only foolproof way to ensure that they got what they wanted was to kill Hannah, her dad Chris Sr., her elder brother Frankie, and her uncle Kenneth. And the rest would just be collateral damage. So they started preparing, getting guns, preparing silencers, and getting a vehicle that would not be traced back to them. Jake's mom, Angela, then forged Hannah's signature in child custody documents to ensure that Jake got custody of Sophia when Hannah was dead.
Jake, George, and Angela Wagner have executed custody documents that designated Jake and Hannah's daughter would go to Jake if Hannah were to die.
On the night of the murders, Jake, along with his dad and brother George, went over to Chris Sr.'s house, where they planned to lure him and Gary out so that they could shoot him. But while there, Jake claimed that his brother froze and could not go through with it, so it was up to Jake and his father to save the day. Jake ended up killing 5 people: Frankie, Hannah Jilly, Dana, Hannah Rodin, and Chris Jr., while his dad killed Chris Sr., Gary, and Kenneth. After his confession, Jake was sentenced to 8 consecutive life sentences, without the possibility of parole. His brother George, despite claiming that he was not involved in any of the murders, was found guilty and sentenced to life without parole. Their mother, Angela, took a plea deal and agreed to plead guilty to a lesser charge of conspiracy to commit aggravated murder and several counts of aggravated robbery, among other charges. She was given 30 years in prison without the possibility of parole or early release. Billy Wagner is still awaiting his trial, but he'll probably face the same fate as his sons. What do you think about this twisted family? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and if you found this video interesting, be sure to like and subscribe for more.
They were trying to be smart, trying to get cars and silencers and shit. And all it took was for that son to just tell them everything, and now they all gone down. Man, that's a sad story. He killed the whole family just because. No, but YouTube, if you're rocking with the channel, leave me a like, comment, sub to the channel. Catch me on the next one.